Rockville Center resident Andrew Haley recently spoke as part of a panel about the historic New York 69th Infantry Regiment as part of an Irish Studies presentation at Molloy College on April 17th. His father is Major General Joseph A. Haley, a former commanding officer of the historic military unit.
The history of the 69th is unparalleled. Quite frankly, as General Sherman had said many years back in the Civil War, the fighting 69th. So it's all about the Irish tradition from then to here we are today. And a lot of grandfathers and grandsons and brothers of Irish tradition have become members of the 69th. But nowadays the 69th is composed of many ethnic groups, but they all want a piece of that American pie. And it's still a great unit, and as it serves, as we stand here today, over in Afghanistan and Iraq, serving this country. So it's a wonderful privilege for us, for me as my father's son, and to represent the Haley family, that he was part of such a great Irish-American tradition.
Molloy College professor Dr. Charles Hallett organized the event as part of the Irish Studies program. Howlett gave a historical PowerPoint presentation on this notable New York regiment.
I recommended that we give some consideration to a presentation involving the role of the Fighting 69th, the glorious tradition of these Irish warriors, and the number of honor winners that have been part of that unit from the Civil War to currently the wars in the Middle East.
Also on the panel were brothers Martin and John Ingram, who shared their story about the recent discovery of their grand-uncle, Private First Class Patrick McKenna, who served in the historic unit during World War I. The brothers shared a DVD presentation about their 2008 journey to honor their grand-uncle on the 90th anniversary of his death. John Ingram says the amazing thing is that most of the family didn't even know about Patrick until only a few years ago.
He had left Ireland, which at the time was part of the United Kingdom, seeking a better life. And like so many wonderful Irish immigrants, he came to New York and joined his regiment. A year later, he was called up on active duty. The regiment, the 69th, became part of the 165th, and that was part of the 42nd. He went to France to fight for our country and died in battle. He was buried, apparently, in Meuse-Argonne National Cemetery, and interestingly enough, my grandmother and my grand aunts and my grand uncles never ever mentioned Patrick McKenna. And it wasn't until late January 2007 that I received a startling two-page letter from a cousin in Ireland saying that they had found Patrick's grave in the Meuse-Argonne National Cemetery. And my brother Marty, who was Lieutenant Colonel in the New York Guard, a retired Air Force Reserve Lieutenant Colonel, he and I decided that we would try to get Grand-Uncle Patrick's decorations and medals and flags, and we set out to do so, and were able to obtain an original New York State World War I medal, a numbered medal, the New York State Distinguished Military Cross.
Martin Ingram says it was quite an experience to honor his long-lost relative 90 years after his sacrifice for his country.
We went to Ireland to present some medals and ribbons that he was entitled to, and we participated in an event there which was attended by the President of Ireland, Mary McAleese, and from there we went to do a cemetery service at the National Cemetery in France with Meuse-Argonne. And we connected with our Irish relatives in Ireland and traveled together to France to commemorate the 90th anniversary of his death. He was with the Fighting 69th. He trained out here in Long Island at Camp Mills, which is part of Garden City now. There is a monument located over there to the 100 men from the 69th that died in World War I. He fought in the Battle of Rouge Bouquet, and this was the battle that he died in was called the Champagne Battles. It was part of what the Germans referred to as the Peace Initiative, which culminated in the Meuse-Argonne battle, which ultimately decided the outcome of the war.
I had no idea that I had a grand-uncle who was a member of the regiment and who died as a member of the regiment. So, the Fighting 69th, of course, was something I think every Irish American sort of adopted because of Father Duffy and Joyce Kilmer, the famous poet, the poet who wrote Trees. He died apparently 2 weeks after, my granduncle.
And both brothers say they're honoring their family's legacy by continuing to serve in the military.
I'm a member of the 88th Brigade, and the 69th, the 88th, and the 63rd Brigade were what were called the Irish Brigades from New York. And they date back into the Civil War, and they fought in some of the big battles of the Civil War, the Battle of Fredericksburg, Battle of Gettysburg, and they had a lot of casualties. And Patrick's story in World War I is very similar to the story of the Irish immigrants in the Civil War, and similar also to immigrants of a variety of ethnic groups. What they do is they try to get a foothold into our society and our culture, and they willingly, even though they're not a citizen, they fight for their adopted country. And that's what a lot of the video that we're going to show here today is going to portray. So the similarities between the Civil War and with the World War I, World War II, we have members of the Fighting 69th that are currently in the theater of operations and are fighting, and it's a wonderful organization. They're at the 26th Street Armory in Lexington Avenue in Manhattan, and there's just a rich tradition of history as you go into the armory and witness this.
So it was basically a historical overview of the Fighting 69th, coupled with more of a moving family presentation to show the true nature of sacrifice, true remembrance of what sacrifice is all about, and how families many years later will come to remember those who paid the ultimate sacrifice.
In Rockville Center, Chris Collora reporting.